the Holy Spirit as Communio, concerning the relationship of pneumatology and spirituality in Augustine. Joseph Ratzinger. The name Holy Spirit. Augustine attempts to grasp the particular physiognomy of the Holy Spirit by investigating his traditional names. First, the designation Holy Spirit. But this presents him with an aporia, while the names Father and Son bring to light what is characteristic of the first and second persons of the Trinity. The name Holy Spirit does not support the presentation of the particularity of the third person as giving and receiving, that is, being as gift and being as reception, as word and response, characteristics which are so completely one that unity, not subordination, arises within them. On the contrary, each of the two other persons of the Trinity could be named in this way. Above all, God Himself, and as such, could be named this way, since John 4:24 also states, God is Spirit. Being Spirit and being holy is the essential description of God. This is what identifies Him as God. Thus, the attempt to gain some kind of concrete understanding of the Holy Spirit in this way only makes Him completely unrecognizable. Augustine sees the particularity of the Holy Spirit expressed precisely in this dilemma. When He is named by that which is the divinity of God, by what the Father and Son have in common, then His essence is just that, the communio of Father and Son. The particularity of the Holy Spirit is evidently that He is what the Father and Son have in common. His particularity is being unity. The general name Holy Spirit is the most appropriate way to express Him in the paradox characteristic of Him, mutuality itself. I think that we learn something very important here. The mediation of Father and Son comes to full unity not when it is seen in a universal, ontic consubstantialitas, but as communio. In other words, it is not derived from a universally metaphysical substance, but from the person. According to the nature of God, it is intrinsically personal. The dyad returns into unity in the Trinity without breaking up the dialogue. Dialogue is actually confirmed in just this way. A mediation back into unity which was not another person would break up the dialogue as dialogue. The Spirit is person as unity, unity as person. From the phrase Holy Spirit, Augustine takes the definition of Spirit as communio. This already has a fundamentally ecclesiological meaning for him, as will be confirmed in the other names of the Holy Spirit. It opens pneumatology up into ecclesiology, and opens a reverse connection of ecclesiology into theology. Becoming a Christian means becoming communio, and thereby entering into the mode of being of the Holy Spirit. But it can also only happen through the Holy Spirit, who is the power of communication, mediating it, making it possible, and is himself a person. Spirit is the unity which God gives himself. In this unity, he himself gives himself. In this unity, the Father and the Son give themselves back to one another. The Spirit's own paradoxical and unique property is being Communio, having his highest selfness precisely in being fully the movement of Communio. Being spiritual would thus essentially always have to do with unifying, communicating. That means that Augustine has, secretly, also effected an important revision of the notion of spirit as such. A bit of metaphysics of spirit has occurred at the same time. He allows the Johannine sentence, God is spirit, to stand in a purely ontological sense. Spirit for him means, first of all, not being matter. On the other hand, one could immediately object that in John, it does not have to do with this at all. There the word spirit expresses the otherness of God in opposition to worldly matters. The opposite of spirit is not matter, but rather the world. He is not ontological in the Greek sense, but axiological, aiming at the specifically religious quality of the holy other, and in that sense referring to the Holy Spirit as an expression of God's self-determining character, to the holiness which expresses this other. In many regards, this is an incomparably more radical opposition than the contrast of spirit and matter, since spirit ultimately can also be worldly and does not have to include going beyond the entirety of the inner worldly. Looking at the whole of Augustine's interpretation, one can say that he embraces this view completely, abandoning the ancient metaphysics of spirit precisely because he has to explain spirit not universally and metaphysically, but on the basis of the dynamic between Father and Son. Communio thereby becomes an essential element of the notion of the Spirit, thus truly giving it content and thoroughly personalizing it. Only one who knows what Holy Spirit is can know what Spirit means, and only one who begins to know what God is can know what the Holy Spirit is. Furthermore, only one who begins to have an idea of what Holy Spirit is can begin to know who God is.